This time on Whatever We Want, we talk about
Rings of Power, episodes 1 and 2. I actually worked on this show and have my name in the credits, so we actually have some pretty unique insights into the show that you won't find anywhere else.
We're also joined by our buddy Pat.
Yeah, he's a Lord of the Rings and Tolkien expert. There are time codes down in the description if you'd like to jump around to different points in the episode. We talk everything from predictions for the future, who certain characters are, lore, and more. Enjoy! Welcome back to Wherever You Want. We review content across all mediums of media, movies, TV shows, video games, and beyond, to give you the most interesting behind-the-scenes insights, storytelling techniques, all that jazz, and more.
We cover everything from Marvel, Pixar, Disney, and even some fantasy. Today we're going to be talking a little bit Tolkien stuff. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
Hello, Pat. How you doing?
I'm doing just swell. What a jump in.
Yeah, thanks again for joining us. For those who remember, Pat, you were on our Guardians of the Galaxy episode, right?
Yeah.
But that was pre-video.
Yeah, I know.
So
it was a fortnight ago.
Your video debut. You guys get to put a face to the voice. Thanks for being here. I heard you did a lot of research for this episode. We appreciate that.
Ooh.
I consulted with other Tolkien nerds that I am friends with, and then I fact-checked some of the information and found out some of it was wrong, so we're gonna
have a discussion later.
I know, yeah. I'm like, oh god, and I'm like quickly fact-checking before I got on the Zoom call, just everything, like, oh god.
Everything is wrong. But yeah, so Pat is a Lord of the Rings Tolkien expert. As you can see, his credentials are behind him there.
Yeah.
For video podcast listeners or audio, can you explain what's behind you there?
Yeah, so I was actually supposed to be an original member of the Fellowship. Peter Jackson added me. My character was a dwarf named Gromley. But they decided to cut me in post, and I understand why. It's cool. Like, we're cool with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. This is a picture reminiscing on that time.
Yeah, for our audio listeners, he's got a very real, not photoshopped at all image of the Fellowship of the Ring with him in it.
In my Coca-Cola sweatshirt.
Yeah, just like in Middle Earth. Sponsored by Coca-Cola.
That was actually like back in 2001. That was to get some more promotion for the movie. So like Coke pitched in.
You haven't aged a day. You look great.
I know, right? I was 1 year old in that photo. Like,
yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, that makes sense. You're like the Lord of the Rings creatures like age pretty slowly, right?
Yeah,
so maybe
right.
You know the pieces are falling into place.
Exactly.
But in other news, besides Pat, the other exciting thing is I actually worked on the Rings of Power show, so I have my name in the credits and everything.
Oh, I didn't even look for your name.
What? I didn't know that, dude. I would have looked for your name.
It was so late. I was just like,
I couldn't tell anyone.
There's 2 episodes.
But yeah, I worked on it. So I got my job back in January, and that was like one of the first things they put me on. And like I found out I got a credit on this in like April, and I couldn't tell anyone until like it came out.
You didn't tell me like until like yesterday.
Yeah, so I was a data IO coordinator for Rings of Power. It was so cool seeing my name with like the Lord of the Rings like Middle Earth font.
Yeah, what part of the credits were you in? Was it in the font too and all that?
I don't know what.
Well, no, because I didn't watch the credits because I was like pooped.
Yeah,
like you know how other shows do it too. They have like the fancy ones for a bit and they just go into like the regular ones.
The Arial font.
Yeah.
Yeah. It still was like Arial with a hint of fantasy in there.
Like a little line at the bottom of the A.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was really cool. Like I worked on it a few months ago. My company did the maps, so we did all the map transitions. And it was really cool. Like I have some pretty awesome insights I want to go into when we kind of get into the main breakdown. And we also did the very first Rings of Power title, like for the first episode, like that kind of looked like the metallic texture font. Yeah, we did that. So like it was so weird because like we did it like months ago, and that's I only saw like those map shots and like a few of the surrounding shots like for edit reference. But when I was like watching this a few days ago, like prepping for this, I like would see a shot that I knew, and I was like, why is this like, why am I getting deja vu? Why have I seen this before? I was like, oh yeah, like I have seen this before. You know, it's like a new show. It's like such a weird feeling.
I love to imagine like you see like in this shot ahead of time, you're like, oh cool, Lyndon, all right, but like meanwhile there's like one person out there who if they knew they'd be like, what?
Yeah, dude, because I actually, because I was working on Lord of the Rings, I decided to watch Lord of the Rings. Like, I never watched it until like earlier this year. So I feel bad. Like, I couldn't appreciate it as much as other people. But like, when I started watching it, I was like, wow, this is awesome. But like, I didn't dive into this like fan base until like I started working on this like in January. And now I'm like head first.
Now you're in it.
Yeah.
Did you do extended or regular cut?
Extended.
Okay, good.
Yeah, dude.
I would have left the call.
Yeah, no, my roommate, I didn't tell him I was working on it. NDA, hello, company, if you're listening. I was good. But like, I was like, I want to watch Lord of the Rings. He was like, I will bring you on this journey. I was like, all right. And we watched it together.
That's
all
dope.
right. But we'll get into that. So, Rings of Power. I want to just hear everyone's overall thoughts, just generically. What do you think of the first 2 episodes of the show? What do you think, Pat?
I enjoyed it, actually, as a matter of fact. I know there's a lot of people who are kind of nitpicking. I think with the shows these days, a lot of people make up their minds before going into it.
Completely agree.
But with this, I tried to I didn't watch trailers. I kept everything out of my head. I didn't know anything about it. And I went in and really enjoyed it. Canon's kind of just been thrown to the wind.
Really?
Yeah.
I have heard that. Yeah, people are like upset with that.
Yeah, one thing, if you look on the explore page of the show on Prime Video, you can see Isildur, who is the ancestor of Aragorn in the movie. He is featured in Rings of Power. However, he isn't born for another 1,500 years until after the rings are made. Because the rings are made in the late 1500s of the Second Age, and he's born in the 3200s of the Second Age. So
my immersion is ruined.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm not watching the show after this. This is miserable. No, but I was discussing with my friend, and he was like, dude, I'm so mad about this. I'm like, who cares?
Yeah, for real. It is a fantasy. I know a lot of people take this to heart, but
true.
I think if you can just suspend your disbelief, more, whatever.
Right. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
No, but other than some canon being thrown to the wind, I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm a little biased towards hobbits or Harfoots, so inclusion of the storyline, I love it.
I really liked that, kind of seeing how they, I guess, is this before they settle in the Shire? This is earlier in their evolution, I guess?
Yeah, so Rings of Power takes place in the Second Age, and I believe according to the books, hobbits or Harfoots aren't necessarily discovered until the Third Age.
Oh, wow. So this is their very early days.
Yeah, so the Hobbit...
Proto-hobbits.
Yeah,
I thought you said Frodo hobbits. I was like, what?
I kind of describe the Harfoots and hobbits as Neanderthals to humans, or it's kind of it's just the early primal versions of them.
I love that Rings of Power is exploring that, just instead of just taking everything we knew and just plopping it thousands of years earlier. I like how they're thinking what would the earlier phases of I guess hobbits and Harfoots look like, and I like how they're exploring that.
Well, a lot of this is written by them. This wasn't detailed in Tolkien's work, because
I know a lot of people are upset at that.
Yeah, because the beginning of the Hobbit says that, and it might even be in the first chapter, that hobbits tend to hide from big folk, and they're very good at it, and they only reveal themselves when they want to, and that doesn't happen until the Third Age. Right. So this is kind of them taking liberties, being okay, hobbits are good at hiding. Here's blah 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 what it could be. Right. And I think they're doing it quite well, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I really liked it. Before they finally settle in the Shire, they're more hunter gatherers almost, and kind of starting to experiment with farming technology. I don't know. All that stuff is pretty cool. Do you have any last minute thoughts on the first 2 episodes before we hear Daniel's thoughts on the first 2 episodes?
Nah, Daniel, let her rip.
Let it rip, Daniel.
So keep in mind, I was also sobering up because I was.
Oh my gosh!
It was a Puerto Rican party last night.
Daniel last night watched it. And texted me. I was like, "Are you gonna be good for tomorrow because you're getting drunk?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm watching it now." And I was like, "Oh boy."
Oh. So I was up to at least 1:30 to 2 last night watching these.
So what did you think?
I was good by then, but I thought it was really. Again, I think it's really well done. I'm curious because it's 3 storylines, right? Because now that you have so much time, they have these an ABC story, and it's curious to see how these are gonna interweave later on in the show. How many episodes is this gonna be in total? Do we know?
8.
So we've already got 2.
I know that because I worked on them.
So my hope is that it doesn't get too cluttered. You know what I mean? Because they have all this time, and I think right now so far that they're doing it right, and things are being paced out at a okay time. I just hope things don't get like too cluttered or too jambled. But with that said, I'm really excited with all the different, like even with I'm assuming it's one of the wizards that came down, right? Pat, is that a wizard or what is that?
The meteor guy?
Wizards
Meteor Man?
So the wizards are known as the Maiar, and they don't appear or descend onto Middle Earth until the Third Age. So since this takes place in the Second Age, it shouldn't technically be, but like we said, canon's kind of just been thrown out the window.
Yeah.
A lot of people online that I've read are thinking it could either be Sauron, because he disguises himself as an elf to create the Rings of Power and manipulate Celebrimbor, or a lot of people are also thinking it could be Tom Bombadil.
Is Celebrimbor the guy, the like smith that the guy? Okay,
yeah, the smith that Elrond goes with.
So this story is we're gonna see the rings being made. That's like what they're building towards. Okay.
Because at the beginning of Lord of the Rings, there's the 9 rings to men, 5 to the dwarves, 3 to the elves, but in secret, Sauron made 1 to rule them all.
Okay, so that makes sense then. That would probably be Sauron, like disguising himself, possibly.
Secret
That's a possibility.
It could be, yeah.
Agent magician.
Are they gonna like humanize him and like give him this connection with this Harfoot, or maybe like he'll like trick her or something? I don't know.
If it is Sauron, I have no idea, because like I said, the Harfoots aren't even included like in the actual text. It could be done like that because canonically Sauron is a shapeshifter, and that's how he's able to manipulate Celebrimbor, because he disguises himself as an elf. So yeah, I have no idea if that could be Sauron. I like to think it's Tom Bombadil, who origins are unknown and is just an absolute Chad in the books. Okay. Like they're like, dude, there's a war going on, and he's like, oh, okay, I don't really want to do anything about that, but like he's so powerful. There's like a bit where Frodo, I think, drops the ring, and Tom Bombadil picks it up, and he's like, huh, what quaint jewelry, and just like tosses it back to Frodo, and like is completely unaffected.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
He's just literally just wandered Middle Earth for like 1,000 some years, and then was like, this is fun, and then just like sat down and settled down with a wife.
Nice. What a dude. What a Chad.
I know, right?
It is a Chad. Yeah. I feel like I think that'd be a better play too, because if this is Sauron like in disguise, like what motive does he have? Especially like coming down,
right?
The middle of Middle Earth at that time. Yeah,
because he's already been in Middle Earth, so I don't understand how it could be him descending down. And also, people tend to think, I don't know if you saw the pictures. There's a guy who looks like early 2000s Eminem.
Oh,
the rapper, and people think that that's Sauron. Wait. I can't wait. I have the picture on Discord, but I'll send it to you guys. But
I be spitting these darkened tomes.
Mom's spaghetti beetroot salad. I'm gonna quickly, while you're getting through that, I'm gonna talk about my thoughts on Rings of Power. So overall, I really thought it was great. What stood out to me was like everything visually, like on screen, I thought was like stunning. Oh,
sorry, I just saw the picture.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, a lot of people believe that that's Sauron.
Amazing. But I think like the production quality, like everything from like the set design to the costumes to the hair, makeup was really just fantastic. Like they didn't really hold anything back. That being said, I don't think it's only been 2 episodes, so I haven't really connected with any of the like cast as much as I have like the Lord of the Rings like original party yet, but it's like so early, so I can't like fault them for that. Yeah, but the story, like again, I'm not super like diehard like a lore, don't know the lore of it, so like I'm kind of coming at it with like fresh eyes, like this is just a fun story in the Lord of the Rings world, so I'm like not like, I don't know, affected by that, but I think it's so far like I'm really enjoying it and excited to see where it goes, because although I have worked on it, like I don't know the story because I've only seen like the map shots, so I know where they go from and to, but that's it. Yeah, I remember it was so funny because like when we were watching the old Lord of the Rings, like I would see the map transitions there and like see some of the locations. I was like, oh, that's the location they go to in like the new one. Okay, cool. But yeah, all right, let's jump into the like each episode, kind of talk a little bit in more detail about things that happen. So first off, I do want to talk about the maps. What did you guys think of the maps?
I really like the maps.
Okay, I do too. I would have kicked you if you said anything different.
No, good old Jerry Randall Tolkien was a big map guy, so it just made me feel great about them. I don't know, maps are cool.
Yeah,
it's just interesting to see too, like the connection between like Galadriel, How do you say your name?
Galadriel.
Yeah, sorry, I'm terrible with names. When she's like,
Galadriel.
yeah, I'm not gonna go to Valinor because like screw that, and then she just yeets. Again, I'm probably saying these names wrong.
I have
'cause
no
was
idea
like,
what you're saying.
well, she's going to go to the elf realm.
Yeah,
Right?
and
then
that's
the whole-
Valinor. Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is it's unique to see like how that's visually was described both like through maps, but also in reality of them having to like physically go through like this
The like tunnel of
portal
light.
in a way. Yeah.
I think the maps also kind of help like understand the layout and everything about it. How like Valinor is completely separate from
Yeah.
Middle Earth.
Yeah, I
and
didn't
it's
really
not
know
just
that.
like
That like
yeah.
until like I saw it.
It's a whole
few months
otion
ago.
away. It's
Yeah.
not just like a day's walk. How
Yeah,
most
no.
things are in Middle Earth.
Not gonna lie, I feel like she decided too late. Like you gotta
Yeah.
you sail across the whole ocean, just be like, I'm out.
She like jumped out of the boat, and I'm like, damn, that sucks.
That's a huge swim.
So you can just swim back now? Like, geez. Like you're an
Yeah.
elf, sure, but I feel like you could still like get exhausted
Sure.
and drown.
because
She,
the shore, the water.
Interestingly enough, with that, the song that they're singing whenever they come in, I wrote it down. What's it called? It's called the Creation of the World song. And it's like the original gods would sing these beautiful songs, but Morgoth, the main villain in the first couple scenes, he was just like, dude, I want the power. So while they're singing this beautiful song, he just went like, and that's kind of like it's this beautiful hymn. But right as like Galadriel starts to realize like, no, I'm needed back in Middle Earth, you hear this really sour note, which is like Morgoth's note. And I'm like, oh, that was cool. They included
That is cool. That's a really cool detail that like I think it's cool that they're like putting in like I think you can watch this like I think we're different viewers here. Like I think I'm viewing this like not from like a Tolkien like Lord of the Rings like lore perspective, and I'm enjoying it. And I think you are watching it and at least slightly enjoying it. Like besides like all the continuity stuff, but it seems like they're adding like small details that like diehard fans could appreciate. Yeah. But I want to talk about the maps really quick, some like insights that I have. So as I said, I worked on the maps on Lord of the Rings, my VFX company, which is super cool. It's so interesting to see how many like versions are submitted back and forth because I'm the person that's sending them back and forth to like Amazon Prime and like getting notes back and like telling it to the artists.
That sounds like you're like selling it as like an Amazon store when you say it like that.
Yeah.
I'm selling these maps.
But like they literally, I think some of the maps there was like back and forth for up to like 30 versions of like just trying to like nail it down, and like we would get notes back like, okay, we're sending you a new sea creature asset, like, oh, can you move it slightly to the right, like a little bit, like in the Sundering Seas, and we're like, yeah, okay, yeah, but I don't know, it was really cool also seeing the early days of like what they were doing with having the maps like transition into the next plate, like the live action plate was super cool. Like when it like dives into the Sundering Seas and then like the waves like transition to perfectly line up with the map. Or like, I don't know if you saw like on the hill, there's like one hill that like the map pushes into and then like it transitions and fades perfectly to align with the hill in the next shot. Just like that stuff was so cool. And also I remember my production company, I wasn't there, but they went to an actual like leather shop and like got reference, like spent a whole day just looking at different leather maps and leather material to get like the texture right for reference so that like the artist would study these like,
Love our job.
this leather.
So cool, man.
Yeah. So yeah, it was really cool just hearing about that and like being a part of. I mean, I was just sending stuff back and forth. We also did the title, the location cards. Whenever it was like introducing a new location, we did those. Yeah, so I got to see like amazing, beautiful establishing shots like months ago, and I was like, this is gonna be so sick. Yeah. So I want to ask though, both of you guys, do you think this Rings of Power, the story of the rings being made, do you think this story needs to be told right now, or just in general? Because like we have heard like that we had that prologue in Lord of the Rings that like, yeah, they were made, and then we know the outcome like of Lord of the Rings, like what happens. So in your opinion, do you think this is a story that needs to be told?
I mean, it's already been told. It's just how you displaying it. You know what I mean? Pat here already knows it.
Yeah.
So it's just like a matter of like, how is this now going to be represented in a new way? Can it be something that's told somewhat right, but still also be entertaining? That's the balance that needs to be done there. And as Pat was saying before, if there's stuff that is so far off that's going to piss people off, that's what's going to be really in question. Like, hey, this shouldn't be told if you're not going to do it to what it deserves to be. If you're not going to give the story the respect that it deserves, right? But I mean, I feel like Pat, you'd actually have more of a perspective on it. Do you feel like the story's getting the respect, even though there are changes being made? Do you feel like it's getting what it deserves, or do you feel like they're going too far?
So as far as my knowledge with J.R.R. Tolkien goes, all of this is kind of dictated in different texts. I'm more of a Lord of the Rings and Hobbit guy because there's like the Silmarillion, which is just, excuse my language, a bitch of a text to get through.
Yeah.
It is so dense. I have it and like I've tried reading it and I'm like,
Yeah.
God, like it's overwhelming. Like, you know, like whenever you read a paragraph in a book and you're like,
And you just have
wait,
not
what?
retained
And you
anything.
you go back. That's like you have to do that 30 times per paragraph in the Silmarillion to like
Jeez.
properly understand it. It's rough. So I feel like making the story of the Rings creation more accessible, and a lot of the prologue to Lord of the Rings is it's nice to make it more accessible and people are understanding it. However, that being said, a lot of the information that they're giving isn't exactly correct. So it's like there's like a kind of a balance of the scales where, oh, like now people know who Celebrimbor is and how he's going to make the rings, but also like, oh, Isildur wasn't born then. Like,
Right.
it's like it's a hard balance, but I think, you know, as long as there's Lord of the Rings content coming out, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
You know,
definitely.
as long as
That's
I
a
can
good way to look
consume
at it.
that, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one thing that really excites me just about the specifics of the story being told, I really like how much they've thought about and how they're exploring this concept of like different races and different creatures experiencing time in different ways. And what I mean by that is like, I think they did it like twice in these first two episodes, but the first one happens with the elf. I'm sorry, I don't know everyone's name. The elf that
Is it about Elrond and Durin?
Elrond and Doran.
That's the second case, but the first one is like the elf guard, and the like human woman.
Arendir.
Yeah, Arendir.
Yes.
So I like how like they explore that he is like falling. It seems like there's some romantic interest between the two of them, but like she's almost like a pet kind of to him because like he lives for hundreds, thousands of years, and she's gonna only be like maybe 100 before she passes away. And also another like in that discussion, there was a really interesting conversation when he first arrives into town. He talks to that young boy, and the boy is like really annoyed that these elves are like basically punishing these people for things their ancestors did hundreds of years ago, like generations ago. And I think it's really interesting that like if to him, like that young boy, that seems like ancient history, like nothing to do with him because he wasn't alive. But for that elf, he was like alive during that time. And I think that's just, I'm trying to put, like, I was thinking about it and like, it just made me think, which I think is what all good like stories do, is like make you think. But if you think about it, like us as humans, like we were born like the late 90s. So I feel like anything like the 80s and before all seems just like ancient history.
It was an age ago to us.
Yeah, like the 1500s and like the 1980s. Like we have no reference to like how long ago that was. Like obviously we know, but like we really don't have like a perspective because we weren't there. But to our parents, like the 80s were like yesterday. So I think it's an also like kind of similar thing going on like to this kid. Like even though this event happened hundreds of years ago, they're still being punished because to the elves it was like the 80s to them kind of thing. So I don't know, I think that's a really interesting like concept that like stories that don't take place with people that age differently couldn't explore. So I like how they're exploring that. I don't know.
Think about it that way. That's awesome. Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I think it's cool that they, because you have all the opportunity to. It's nice to see that they're doing it right in that sense.
Yeah,
because it gets into the perspectives of different people, and it's also nice to see how like from an elf perspective, they literally view existence differently because of how much time they have.
right.
So it's just crazy. Well, I was going to ask you, Pat, because Jake and I had this question the other time, and I think Jake made a TikTok about it. If you could be any race from Lord of the
yeah.
Rings, what would you be?
From Middle Earth. If you choose orc, we have lotion
No.
for you.
Oh, what? Why would I do that, dude? That's disgusting. No, if I had to, it would be Maiar, you know, the wizards. But
Yeah,
I feel like
that's
that's
what
I feel like
Daniel
that's a
said.
cop-out answer.
No, that's what
But-
Daniel said. But then we started discussing what color would like. What if you woke up and you're just like that brown wizard from The Hobbit that has like crap on his head?
Radagast.
Yeah.
People online are like, dude, I think the stranger's Radagast. And everyone's like, shut up. Like, Radagast is like barely mentioned in the text to begin with. So
Yeah.
like if they made it Radagast, that would be so disappointing.
Yeah.
I feel like I just jinxed us right now saying
know.
that. Like, no, but I don't know, probably that. I remember I was dating this one girl and I showed her Lord of the Rings and she was like, if they like made a stage adaptation of Lord of the Rings, who would you want to play? I'm like, oh, dude, Aragorn.
Yeah.
Easily. Like,
Yeah.
but like I feel like the suffering of humans in Middle Earth sucks. So I'm like,
Yes.
like it'd be nice to be Gandalf and just like get to chill with hobbits and go on adventures.
Smoke all day. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you're never late. So.
Yeah.
I
you're
do
always
have a functional replica of Gandalf's pipe.
Really?
It's
Really?
it's already packed up in my box for moving, but I wouldn't
That
show.
made the
But
cut for the move.
yeah, oh, you know it. Like,
That's
it's my most
awesome.
prized possession.
That's sick.
Somebody in our comments also brought up you could be. They wanted to be a dragon. I'm like that does
Yeah.
kind of like change the game. You know what I mean? Like I wonder what it'd be like to be. How long do dragons live for?
They live for a while.
Wait, you read our comments, Daniel?
Yeah, I did.
Aw,
Yeah.
I didn't know you read the comments. That's so nice. What would you say, Pat? Sorry.
I was saying they live for a while, like
And then you just
Smaug.
get to nap in gold. Like,
Yeah, that's
all you do.
amazing. Scrooge McDragon.
And if you get hungry, you have your built-in oven. You just and then
Just-
you're good.
Yeah, just pop some pizza rolls in your mouth, just go, and then they're out. Like,
Dude, the amount of pizza rolls you would need to like survive as a dragon.
Yeah, maybe more like people rolls. That would probably
People
be
Oh
better.
my gosh. Again, being a human sucks.
on like the topic of like the races sucking.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, oh, it's like not canon and blah blah blah. Like, dude, the elves would suck if this was like proper elves in
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings. Like, they would hate Elrond because he's. They actually reference the love of Beren and Luthien, which is kind of mirrored of the love of Arwen and Aragorn in Lord of the Rings. It's a human falling in love with
Okay.
an elf, and the elf gives up immortality to be with a human.
Right.
And their descendant is actually Elrond, who is a half elf. And so
Oh.
elves kind of discriminated against Elrond for that.
Oh.
And so
Interesting.
like the elves are terrible.
That's what I was saying. Daniel was like, I would want to be an elf, but I feel like growing up in elf society, I feel like they're so like pretentious and like
Oh,
you don't
God.
fit by their rules. Like you just be banished, and then like
Well, I biologically I'd be an elf. Like socially, I'd like shoot like D&D. I'd be like, oh, I was raised by like humans because I was left by the river. You know, you come up with some backstory or something
so
like
you're
that.
choosing. How do you choose to be born an elf, and then you're like, Mom, leave me by the river? And you'd be
Well, I
raised
get
by
to choose.
wolves.
I'm an elf, so why can't I make these other choices? You know. So-
No, like I think it's like in The Hobbit, whenever they first arrive to Rivendell, like Bilbo and the company, the elves are just like in trees, just like mocking them. And I'm like, dude, you guys suck. Like,
Yeah, that's not cool. I like how this show's on Amazon Prime because like you can do the thing where like if you move your mouse, it shows you what actors and characters are on screen. And because like I again am not like a huge Lord of the Rings, like there's so many characters to keep track of. If I'm like, should I know who this is? I like move my mouse and then just like Google it really quick on my other monitor, and I'm like, oh, that's like Galadriel, like the main elf from the Lord of the Rings, just young. That's kind of cool. Like I feel bad. I had to actually check because I was like, is that the same person? Yeah.
no, I remember like in that realm, whenever it was the first scene of the Harfoots, I'm like, are these hobbits?
That's what I did too.
Yeah.
So I hit pause and I saw the what was it? The last name, I think it was like Brandyfoot, and I was like, that's hobbits.
I do like the tension they are building. Like again, it's like again, like Daniel said, the pacing is like very slow. Like we're seeing like everyone is like, all right, everything's fine. Like the Elf King has disbanded all the like warrior outposts and is like declaring that the evil is gone. And like the audience knows like, yeah, that's not the case. And you're kind of just waiting to see like when things are
When
gonna
does
like,
shit
go
hit the
south
fan?
again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like the tension that they're building. And then, yeah, the meteor at the end with the guy kind of gave me like Ben 10 pilot vibes with like the whatever the heck the watches flying
Same
down.
thing. Yeah, the Omnitrix.
Really? Yeah.
I was thinking like symbiote, like from.
I thought that a little bit too, but it just gave me more
Spider-Man.
Ben
Like
10.
imagine the Hobbit goes in there and he's just like, oh, black suit, and then you just hear. "Da-da-da-da-da."
Oh, wait, I just got reminded. In the realm of the stranger being Sauron, though, You know,
Yeah.
remember how the one Hobbit girl, Nori,
Okay.
she
Yeah.
whenever she like falls in, she's like, "Oh, the fire isn't hot." I think in the text it says that the darkness of Sauron literally like sucked the heat out of fire. Like he's just that evil. So it's like,
true.
oh, so that is like
That also happened in like the first scene, like when the torches like didn't.
I didn't even make that connection. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
so it could be a force of evil. We will find out.
Or it's
or
the
we
brown
won't.
wizard.
Or it's Radagast just
Yeah.
screwing with you.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Or like Sauron's just like peeking around a corner, so like everything like out.
He's just there, just
Yeah.
gaslighting the Harfoots.
Yeah. Gaslighting the Harfoots and the audience.
They're like, yeah, Sauron, it's going to take a couple years before the army's up. And he's like, what am I going to do in that time? So
Yeah.
he's just spending his days gaslighting people for fun.
Including the audience. It's like they do like an Agatha All Along like flashback.
Yeah, honestly.
Where it's just like goes back to earlier scenes, but you see like a different angle, like Sauron just like peeking around a corner, like watching the whole time.
It's like Nori falling into the pit, then the camera pans over. It's Sauron with a glass of wine, like snapping his fingers
Yeah,
and just like enjoying himself.
Funny.
So let me ask you guys this: where do you guys think things are going to go for the rest of the show, and where do you think it's going to like end? Like, is there plans for like a season 2 and stuff already, or is this like a one-off thing, or?
I haven't heard anything about a season 2.
So if that's the case, say this is like the only season we're getting right now, right? How do we think this arc is going to end with the rings? Do we think that it's going to end with the rings being made, or is it going to be like the rings are made episode like 4, 5, and then the rest of it is when things really go to shit? Like,
I think the rings are probably gonna. I think it's gonna be building up to the rings being made, maybe, and then like Galadriel is gonna be trying to like stop it, or like maybe, or I'm just trying to think like how Galadriel is gonna like come back into the story and like what she's gonna do if she's gonna be impacted by the rings or
well, right
not.
now she's living One Piece, so
I think Galadriel actually, she is living One Piece. Good reference. she gets one of the rings of power.
Oh.
If you look in the flashback at the start of Lord of the Rings, she says 3 things,
right.
3 rings to the elves. She's wearing one of them.
Dang, so she's gonna get some
But,
bling.
I think since they still have to build the forge and everything, I'm kind of in the realm of if there is going to be a season 2, this is just going to end with the rings being crafted. Then season 2 is going to be like the corruption of the rings of power, whereas like the 9 rings that go to the men. Oh, I can't remember the name of the settlement that the rings go to, but 9 men get rings there, and they become the Nazgul in the first movie. Or not, in the Lord of the Rings, they become the Nazgul and the Witch King. So it's like the corruption of them and the fall of their society.
The fall of man.
And fall of man, exactly. I think that's what season 2 would be. If that's how I would do it, but you know, the show's already made and I'm not in charge of anything. So
I mean, there's like a kind of like you said, Daniel, there's like 3-ish storylines. So I'm wondering, I think they're going to like kind of intertwine and like converge. Like I think we have like the hobbits, Hoffoots, and I'm calling him the hobo, like the guy, like the
Harry Foots and the Hobo. Sounds like a nice band.
Then we also have like Galadriel like on the water. Let's talk about who do you think that guy was at the end of episode 2 that like was on the ship?
I think it was the Númenóreans, which are the humans, where like Isildur is. Very likely that was Elendil, who is Isildur's father. Actually, almost positive it is because I'm looking at the Amazon Explore page right now.
Okay.
And his first bit of description says, as the captain of a Númenórean guard ship. I'm like, oh, well, that'll do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's who, I'm like 98% positive it's the Númenóreans. And that's how they're going to be introduced to the show.
So we have those 2 storylines. We also have Elrond and like the dwarves. Which I kind of did like the little like challenge they did. I wish we kind of saw a little more of that. And that's also, speaking of just that storyline, that's again the same thing with like time happening at different paces. I like how they explored that, like, what's his face?
Dory.
Elrond, is that the elf?
Yeah, Elrond.
Yeah, he was like, oh, it's only been 20 years. Like, it's like a blink of an eye for him. He's like, it's been so short since I've seen you. But the dwarf is like really upset that Elrond like missed like most of his life. Like he got married, had kids, because that's like a huge chunk of his life compared to Elrond, which is like the blink of an eye. So I again like how they're exploring the differences in time and how that puts strain on like relationships between the different races. So I thought that was pretty cool.
It's also just a very unsafe elevator. There's like no handrails or
Dude, I
anything.
thought the same
Like
thing.
the same Death Star engineer made it.
Pretty like it looks dope. You're going to the side of this interior wall, but like you look down, and you're like, if I fall, I'm done.
Dude, it
Or
was
if like a
sick.
chain breaks, I'm done.
It was sick seeing the dwarf kingdom like in its like heyday. Like
Prime.
Yeah.
I
I love that too.
Yeah, because that's the one that they go to in Fellowship of the Ring, the Mines of Moria.
Really? Wow.
It's the same one, yeah. Khazad-dûm, Mines of Moria. It's
Wow,
like
very
I was
different.
like, it's so cool to see it like actually active rather than just completely abandoned with Gollum tracking them down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have again the storylines. We have the hobbits and the hobo, Galadriel, Elrond and the dwarves, and like the ring smith, and then the human village and
So you got like 4 stories.
the
going on.
elves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering how they're all gonna converge, if they are gonna converge. We have 6 episodes to go. So one thing I think Rings of Power is doing extremely well is the orc terror level, because like that, like they're making them they're making them like a horror monster. Like in the original Lord of the Rings, the orcs are terrifying. Like they're these like vicious creatures, but what they're doing here is like they made them scarce, and since no one has seen them for so long, like hundreds of years, it's like this monster like legend from like a children's book. Instead of like having like 50 that like the protagonist can mow down, like one is like pretty fierce and like terrifying. Like that orc attack in episode 2.
Oh my
like
God.
I love that. Like I love that instead of just having like an army of orcs and that being like the terror, it's just this one like mystery creature. Like we don't see him until like almost the end of episode 2. Like they're just like this legend like monster that like no one has seen. So I really like that that difference between Lord of the Rings and Rings of Power. Like the orcs seem like more terrifying. What do you guys think about that?
No, I totally agree. Like even when the other elf guy,
Oh, Arendir.
Arndir, that's what it was. I was close.
I need another Google Doc with all the names and their pictures next to them.
But no, like at the last thing we saw of him, where I need like a Liz, where like all the hands like grabbed him and pulled.
What if we
him
just
back.
never see him again?
Like,
He's just like gone. Like that was
That's it. That's the end of his storyline. But no, it's like I totally agree. Like the horror aspects like that are done very well. And if I'm being honest, it's something that like you haven't really seen done good in a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that whole sequence kind of reminded me of have you guys ever seen the movie The Descent?
I don't think I have, unfortunately.
I don't think so.
It's a I think it was a British film. Yeah, it was a British film. It's like a hiking group or like caving group of just friends. Like they just want to explore a nice cave together. They go to whatchamacallit, the Appalachian Mountains to explore this one cave, but one of them brings them to a different cave that's unexplored because she wants a little more thrill.
Oh boy.
And they discover these monsters in the cave, and they have to like it's like cannibalistic monsters.
Oh
And they have to
shoot.
like survive them. And so like when Arendir was like crawling through that one claustrophobic space and he was like running away from the goblins, I was like,
Oh my gosh.
it's
Yeah.
reminding me too much of that movie. I was
Yeah,
like,
when he
oh.
started like
Yeah.
like trying to like pull himself through that
Like,
small
really
space,
get through
I was
there?
like, dude,
Yeah.
like
I feel
was
like
like, I
people with
can't.
claustrophobia, like in that scene, would have been just like losing it
Oh,
because of like how
God.
tight the fit was.
Yeah, but it was very reminiscent of that because that's a claustrophobic movie, and like the hands like coming out to reach to grab him. I was like, this is like straight out of that film. So it was
Yeah.
I don't know. I know it wasn't an intentional nod, but as a horror fan, I like to think it was.
Yeah. Dude, I love just, especially speaking of like nods, like I don't know if this was a nod, but like back to the dwarfs in their like heyday, like I think the music that played during like when we were seeing the mind was like amazing. Like it was very triumphant and like powerful. And I don't think it was like exactly like the Lord of the Rings, but it just like obviously gave me the vibe because it's in the same world. But like it just felt, it was again solidified that point of like these are the dwarves like in their heyday. And I just really liked, I don't know, all the music in this show so far has impressed me a lot.
Which with the music, I thought Howard Shore was doing the music for the whole show. He did the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings music. And in the opening credits, I saw he just did the main theme, and I was like,
Oh,
who the hell is doing all the music? And it's Bear McCreary, who
oh,
has done
okay.
who most similarly to Lord of the Rings has done the God of War score,
Cool.
the 2018 game. And
Yeah.
I listen to that score like weekly. It is a fantastic score. He did a wonderful job, and I was like, okay, he was the right pick to do.
Yeah.
Like, he's captured the essence of it beautifully. Yeah, he's doing a great job.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
One other insight I want to talk about from working on Lord of the Rings, this like the Rings of Power thing at my visual effects company. Like I think it's really interesting also like how on top of this Amazon Prime was, because a lot of shows that I have worked on, like we mentioned on this podcast in the past, I worked on like Miss Marvel. I, again, don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but whatever. A lot of the shows often go right up until like the date, like to deliver stuff, or like down to the wire. Like we deliver, like episode 1 is like out on Disney Plus, and we're still delivering like the last few episodes of like visual effects, which I just think is like very stressful and like down to the wire. But like Amazon Prime was like one of the only shows I've worked on that's like been on top of it. Like we wrapped in like April of this year, and it's like September and it's out, and like a lot of their visual effects like that I was seeing were pretty close to being done. Like when I was working on it, like we were working on it from like January to April when I started all these maps and stuff. So like they were really like, I think again, they really just want to do this justice, and they were like ahead of it, not like cramming it. And so I like that they are giving it like the time and attention it needs.
It's good.
Yeah.
I want to ask you guys something too. For the
Nope. Moving on. I'm just kidding.
Oh no, the episode 2 title sequence. Do you guys think
we
that
didn't
was
do
done?
that one.
Oh no, but do you think it was done CGI? Do you think it was practical?
The sandstorm, like kind of effects.
The sand table with like the sonograph stuff. You guys know how that works, right? You just have a bunch of sand on like its surface, and then
I think they probably
have
did.
a speaker below it with different frequencies, and the different frequencies have different patterns.
They either did like took reference like with real ones and then did it all CGI, or they did it practically and probably touched up CGI. I don't think it's an all practical sequence.
I agree. I think it's the second one you said there.
Well, it's whenever they revealed the title with like the Rings of Power,
That
like
was
being
sick.
molten lava, like that was all
Yeah,
practical.
that was cool.
Yeah.
So that's what leads me to lean towards the intro sequence probably was like practical with a little touch up. But yeah.
I just thought it was cool, so I wanted to bring that up. I thought it deserved a little nod.
I agree when I was seeing that, because we, like I said, we did the first episode title sequence, and then seeing the second one, I was like, oh dang, that one's pretty cool too. Anything else you want to talk about with like the specifics for episodes 1 or 2? Like anything that jumped out to you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole beginning sequence with like Morgoth burning the tree.
Yeah.
That's a lie. That didn't happen.
Oh.
That didn't happen at all. Morgoth was banished from the gods for singing that really bad note, so he went south and found this huge spider named Ungoliant, and then Ungoliant was like, dude, I hate the light that tree gives off. He's like, oh, dude, you want to go mess up that tree? So they go, and Ungoliant, this giant spider, like the size of a mountain, grabs the tree and sucks the life force from it.
Oh my gosh. The Gluck Gluck 9000.
Yeah. Just literally sucked the life out of that tree. And then there was also like, I forget what else there was, like a spring or a well, something like that. I don't remember too much. I just remember glossing over it in the research. But a lot of people were very upset about it online. Like they didn't even reference Ungoliant at all, or like a nod to them.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not going to include a giant spider because they're scary. But no, but I don't know. I just thought like my friends were saying like even just like spider's fangs like in the clouds like above the tree would have just been like good enough. But they just did not mention Ungoliant at all. Who was like
cut it completely.
Yeah, and Ungoliant's like effect on Middle Earth was huge. Like Shelob in Return of the King is a descendant of Ungoliant. The spiders in Mirkwood and the Hobbit are all descendants of Ungoliant.
Oh wow.
So it's like she has brought this awful evil to Middle Earth and just was not mentioned at all. And it's like, oh,
I could see how that would definitely upset some like diehard
I'm
fans.
also just trying to imagine it'd be pretty much like the same scales like the evil monster thing from like Stranger Things. Imagine like that scale. You know, like giant legs,
that's
like
kind of
that.
how I'm picturing it. Some people in depictions like just make her like the size of Shelob, just like a big old spider. But I've always had it described to me as just like monumentous size, gargantuan.
Maybe the showrunners just like has arachnophobia and is like, we're cutting all spiders from Middle Earth now.
No
For
more
which
spiders.
I thank them. I am terrified of them.
Oh really?
I was like gripping and ripping like, oh, she's coming, and then she wasn't there, and I was like, whew.
Yeah. That's funny. What about anything else in these episodes you guys want to talk about? I want to make sure we cover everything.
The only other thing that I kind of want to mention, at the end of the second episode, the dwarves opening up that box.
Yeah.
And you know, like there was like that blue glow.
Oh, is that like the Arkenstone?
No. So that's most likely going to be one of the Silmarils, which were they mention it. I think was it Feanor is the creator of the Silmarils? Forgive me if I'm forgetting the name.
It's all good.
the tree that Ungoliant sucked the life out of, Feanor thought they were so beautiful that he made these beautiful stones, and they were captured by Morgoth whenever they took out the tree, and Morgoth withheld them from Ungoliant, and after a while I think they were just like scattered and discovered by the dwarves, and that's why elves and dwarves hate each other and have hated each other all throughout the end of Lord of the Rings, because the dwarves had the Silmarils and refused to give them back.
Interesting. I was wondering, that's one thing I was gonna wonder if like we were gonna get any more detail on like the elf dwarf rivalry that we've seen forever.
Yeah, and like in I know you guys just covered the Hobbit, when Thranduil goes with a bard to the gates and he like asks for the gems back. It is, I don't know if those are Silmarils, but it's kind of like reminiscent of that feud of like the elves just want their property back, but the dwarves their beauty is so strong that they're like, no, not happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Dang, why can't everyone just be nice?
I know, right?
Hold hands.
And then Gimli comes along and ends the feud, and that's when he's allowed in Valinor.
That's awesome.
Aw.
I love Gimli.
I feel like people would be a lot more friendly if there was just a giant spider like over everything. Yeah, they'd be like, yeah, exactly. You'd be like, all right, we gotta band together, take that thing out. You know, like,
you would think. Well, I mean, there was a common enemy. There was a giant fire eyeball in the sky, and still people were arguing. You know, like,
yeah, true.
Yeah, right.
Maybe if both of them were in the sky, the fire eyeball and this giant spider.
That'd be freaking menacing as like an army, dude. A tower with a giant eye with the power of a sorcerer, and then a giant spider. Where's that? What's his name again?
Oh, Ungoliant.
Imagine, where does Ungoliant even come from? And you're like, okay, how do we like?
Yeah, how did Ungoliant?
Like, how do you prevent this from happening again?
That wasn't ever stated. Ungoliant just kind of like came from the darkness, but all of her descendants are just like in one realm, like one area, and everyone's just like, dude, we are staying away from that.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going near there.
I don't blame them.
Yeah, I think that's a good call.
Yeah, I mean, overall, for just wrap up thoughts for the show, I'm excited to see where it goes. Keep an eye out for more maps, you know? I cannot confirm or deny what else I've worked on for NDA purposes. I'm thankful for the opportunity to, like, have worked on this. But, like, I'm just super excited. Like, I'm so far very pleasantly, enjoying this. Not surprised, but, like, I'm enjoying this show so far. And it's just, like you said, Pat, earlier, like, it's great to be back in the Lord of the Rings, like, world and like Middle Earth and everything. Yeah, it's just exciting.
So one last thing I do want to mention.
Yeah.
When Elrond's first introduced and the woman comes up and says Harold Elrond, Harold is like the occupation he had. I thought they were implying his first name was Harold, and I like had to pause. I was laughing so hard. I was like, dude, this guy's name is Harold. Like, come on.
All the like amazing Lord of the Rings.
No wonder he goes by Elrond all the time. That sounds way more epic, you know?
All these names that are derived from other languages.
Yeah.
Just beautifully crafted by Tolkien, like from Nordic mythos, from like the Middle East. And then he's like, you know what? Harold. Why not?
Well, Pat, thank you seriously so much for joining us. I'm actually very thankful you were here because you have so much knowledge that I don't think Daniel and I come even close
glazed
to.
over us. Like
I was like talking with my friends and they're like, dude, yeah, if they like know Tolkien, you're gonna be screwed. I'm like,
you're fine.
Dude.
Yeah, you're fine.
they're like, dude, if they test you, like, it's gonna. I hope we're good enough. I'm like, no, I don't think they know enough.
No, it was more than enough. We're more. I was more like just excited about the like film cinematography side.
Yeah,
that's what I was like
saying.
really
like,
excited about.
I was like, they know the technicalities. I know the lore. Like, we'll be a force to be reckoned with together.
Yeah, together we make. I don't know, the ultimate ring of power.
Yeah.
You have anything you want to promote? Anything you're working on that you want people to check out?
Not really. I mean,
okay.
I kind of plan on doing some stuff on YouTube, but I don't really, you know.
Okay. Well,
it's not out, so it's all good. Just if you see me on the street, say hey.
Yeah. And I will say, maybe, you know, this is a very long time ago shout out, but Pat, Daniel, and I all did Blue Butter Bagels together like 2 years ago. So
oh my god,
that was our gaming channel. So if you ever want to check that out,
dude, I go back and watch some of those. I was like,
I'm sorry.
No, I love them. I'm like, I still watch crafting table tutorial.
Oh my gosh.
From time to time.
Here's how to make a crafting table.
And like 5 FPS.
That's our most viewed video, I think.
Yeah.
It's our first video I made when I was like 12. It was on my crappy laptop, like my 5th grade laptop. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Pat. I appreciate you hopping on. If we ever do other Lord of the Rings, are you watching it now?
Yeah.
Why? I saw your face. All right, I'm cutting this segment here. Boosh. All right, here we are. Bam. Next segment. Thanks again, Pat, for joining us. It has been like 3 weeks since we recorded a podcast. We batch recorded the last few because you were out of town, then I was out of town. So we're knocking off the rust, getting back into the swing.
Yeah,
of
true.
things. Are you ready to jump into TTTT?
Yes.
I have a pretty interesting TTTT. I told you this, but so, dude, I was in the meeting where they decided that Wong used to be a Target sales associate.
Really? Well, first we should tell people what was going on with that. Like, where?
Yeah.
Like,
so in the latest episode of She-Hulk, on Wong's LinkedIn profile, before he was the librarian at Kamartaj, he's listed as working for 9 years as a Target sales associate. And as
that's what got me when I saw it. It was like 9 years.
Yeah. But as I discussed before, like I work at a visual effects company that works on Marvel stuff. I'm credited in She-Hulk, like I worked on She-Hulk, and my company did that. Like one of the artists was tasked with designing Wong's LinkedIn profile. That's what we were assigned, and I sat in on the meeting taking notes when it was being pitched to Marvel. The artist like just threw that like detail in there just for laughs, and the Marvel supervisors thought it was like hilarious, and they actually just decided to keep it in the show. So like this artist like made it canon that Wong used to work at Target.
It's funny how stuff like works out where it's nice if you have like a good or funny idea like that, you can just like get it in somehow to whatever part you're doing, and then if people like it, if the higher ups, the shadow people in the court that you don't know but are there.
The shadow people.
Yes.
So I just thought it was pretty funny. All right, ready for patron shoutouts?
Yeah, hit me with them.
Cue the episode music. Boosh, we got patron Lori, Frank, Rick, Lisa, Evan, Tony. Thank you so much for pledging the tier. Thank you for the shout out. If you'd like to support us over on Patreon, link is down in the description. You get the audio episode early and a lot of other cool benefits like a discount for our merch, which everyone should definitely check out. Check out our merch on our website. We got some cool stuff up there. Yeah, thank you to everyone, to our patron supporters and people that check out the merch. Ready for cool comments?
Yeah.
So, on one of our latest podcasts, Lunar Butterfly commented on our YouTube. I'm not sure if you guys have done this before, but in case you haven't, I would love to hear you guys talk about the possibility of Star Wars having a what if, a show just like Marvel, and what episodes and stories you would want to see. I have a whole list of ideas for this, and I'm interested to hear yours. I think that'd be a really fun episode if you're down to do that
would be
sometime.
dope, actually, because there's a lot of potential there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, off the top of my head, like I was thinking, it'd be fun to just like really flesh out ideas. Like there's been like fan art of like Anakin never turning evil / like Ahsoka never leaving the Jedi Order, and there's like a happy family. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking about it, and honestly, I think if Anakin never turned evil, I don't think that would change much, because I think Palpatine still had all the like dominoes in place to like topple the Republic. That might have just delayed it, and like someone else would have taken up that role as like this Vader personality, or that some other event.
No, definitely.
It would just kick the can a little bit down the road. I think the Republic was still on the verge of falling.
Oh no, definitely. Like just think about it. What did Anakin do during the actual transition there?
Killed
a
some
bunch
kids.
of younglings.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe like Dooku would still be like this right hand man. Maybe Maul would come back, or maybe Krell would be the big evil. I don't know.
Yeah, true. Well, that's the thing in Revenge of the Sith. I mean, he was testing Anakin by telling him to kill Dooku.
Right.
But if say he still killed Dooku, and then he was like, nah, Anakin's not turning. In that case, I feel like he won't go back to Maul either. I feel like he just gets someone else. Yeah.
Maybe that youngling. Groom him.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it could have been Reva.
Yeah.
Or like any of the people who would have turned into Inquisitors.
True.
He would have picked up and then
trained them.
Made them to new Sith.
All right. Let's save it for a future episode. We can flesh it all out.
Yeah.
All right, ready for the introduction?
Yeah, tell me when.
Wait, hold on. Sorry. Thank you, Lunar Butterfly, for that comment. When?
Yeah, we just talked about whatever you want to talk about, and now we're done.
Thank you so much for listening. We seriously, really, genuinely do appreciate it. Yeah, we will be back next week. Goodbye.
Oh, yeah.